All right, welcome back to another episode of Nemo Radio. This guest, I'm just going to read the email because this is the best. Melissa, don't spoil it. I don't even know who you are yet, okay, for the audio listeners. So I sent out an email talking to, the subject line was ouch, and I talked about how to deal with critics and one of the missteps I had in getting an angry email. And then Melissa G. Wilson writes back, and just listen to this reply. This was so good. She says, "This made me feel better for any and all jabs I've received. I love the adage, success is an inside job." So true. And then this is the part that got me, and this is why I'm like, I love this lady. So Melissa, then she writes, "I will admit at first, John, that I didn't trust you that much." All right, well, laws are starting on the right foot here. And she says, "You see, Melissa G. Wilson was one of the first 80 or so people on LinkedIn. She presented to LinkedIn when they only had around 80 people working at the company." Mm-hmm. And Melissa told me in this email, as I presented, I remember sharing with the group, I felt like Dorothy just kind of dizzily landing in Oz. It was an amazing experience. And then Melissa goes on to become a networking coach on six-figure jobs for 10 years. She taught over 3,000 executives LinkedIn in 1-hour coaching sessions. She's written 7 different books on networking, including co-authoring a book with the CMO of Motorola at the time. And then Melissa's journey shifts, and she says, 10 years ago, I shifted my focus to publishing after I had the rare opportunity to be one of 70 marketers chosen to help Seth Godin. Now, hold on. I got to pick some names up off the ground here. Wow, right? To reinvent publishing, where his book sold over 250,000 copies. And then, so having helped many top thought leaders like the president of Holland Cruise Lines, the chief digital officer of Cisco, write and publish their books with me, I love seeing people like you succeed. And so then we started up a fun conversation, and I said, I've got to get you on the podcast. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for reading that. You know, I don't like at all patting oneself on the back, if you will, but then how else are you going to explain? My greatest intention is to help others. So if I can't tell you what I did and how I can help you, but I'm sure you have the answers because you are an expert.
Just take me on the road, Melissa. I'll be the hype man for you. Ladies
that
and
is
gentlemen.
so cool. Well, you get to be part of what I call my full circle because you deserve it. I'm starting what you're doing here. I'm going to start in May, and it's called Read Around the World. And it's thought leaders acting nobly to spread wisdom globally.
Ooh, I like that.
And if you get a lift in the sales of your books because of it, I'm asking you to say, if I get some lift, I'll donate $100 to one, whatever you choose, a chosen literacy organization that focuses on helping kids learn how to read.
This is amazing. And I love how we've started this conversation because you do have to capture attention and you do have to have authority and credibility. Yeah. And Melissa is the type who is not going to come out and toot her own horn and say all that. And I love the reason I wanted to read that email too was because you did it in it wasn't a braggy way. It wasn't look at me and don't you know who I am and you're just some doofus with a popcorn bucket on his head on LinkedIn and my feed once in a while, right? Yeah. And so it was very much, hey, I just want to let you know, given my background, that, you know, this is a unique, you know, experience. And so I knew I had to get you on. And so kind of we've started off already on a great conversation. But Melissa G. Wilson, based in Chicago, Illinois, you are a 5-time best-selling author. You are someone that now has a lot of different things going on, but a turnkey kind of book publishing experience. You've worked with over 120 top thought leaders, helping them write their books, start to finish. I want to start, though, at the beginning, because I love for people to know the journey. I assume you didn't just kind of descend from on high and have all the answers and have this amazing career, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So take me through the glory days when you kind of started the professional journey. Take me forward from there and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Thank you. I started out undergraduate sociology, graduate school I taught writing, taught creative writing, but also I turned the corner on technical writing. So it was really neat because it was the Wild West in computers. And I got to work at a company, be a technical writer, Babcock and Wilcox, the infamous 3 Mile Island fiasco. But I worked in Akron, Ohio, writing technical manuals. And what I do, now you're going to love this because it connects to networking, is I go around the office. So I'm in my 20s and I'm walking around the office, and we have people programming. This will be like, a foreign language, Pascal, Basic, Fortran, and they had beveled class between them. And I swear to God, I'd go, Jake, one geek on one side with a pencil pocket, with pencil, one geek on the other side, beveled glass between them so they can't see each other. And I'd go, hey, Jake, do you know Tom? No, I don't. I said, well, and I'd pull one out of the cubicle, pull the other out of the cubicle, and connect them together. And I did that all over the company. And then when I rewrote their computer user manuals, what I did is I took their old manuals and I sent around a questionnaire to everyone, the 300 people or so in the office, at the location. And I said, what don't you like? What do you want to improve in this and this and this area? Then I took all their ideas, improved the manuals, gave it back to everyone and asked them to rate it. And they went, oh, you did everything, this is so simple. But that got me moving along with organizations. And the dean of the English college at the University of Akron, Ohio, said, hey, B.F. Goodrich wants to rewrite all their computer user manuals. Why don't you come and do that? Well, here I'm working for $35,000 at Babcock and Wilcox. I go over and pitch B.F. Goodrich for $50,000, and I get to go there one day a week, and I'm going, now this is a way to work.
Yeah,
that's much better than going in someplace 8 to 5, all day. So that got me started. Then I went to law school, but I took every writing class there was, and I ended up over at DePaul because my first husband and I, we had 2 little children. We moved here, lived in Schaumburg, and I finished law school, and I did what I always did was take everything. I wrote for a first African-American federal district court judge, and she actually let me write her briefs. And I'd be like, aren't you going to change them? And I'm just saying, that was wild.
Yeah.
Worked for the SBA in their legal department. Worked for Hart Marks doing trademark research, ended up at Cat & Muchin, a big law firm. But I really missed home and the kids. And so I thought about it, and we grew up, myself and my sisters, 2 sisters and brother, house connected to my dad's florist shop in Ashland, Ohio. And so we were always on call. We'd answer the phone. We were entrepreneurs. Yeah. We had to make arrangements. We had to, console people when they were ordering, a funeral arrangement. And we were little kids. And so we learned. We became very entrepreneurial. And I thought, I think I'd rather do that. I'd rather take all the legal and parlay that in through something different. So I came up with the idea. I was in early Angie's List. And I licensed this methodology. I got to know all these different people in Chicago, tradesmen, but we had business services, consumer services. I had 7 employees at 2,500 square feet of office space. But my family, was like frenetic, and I was mom, and it was a tough way to go. And my sad story is I had a husband who had nervous breakdowns, and eventually he killed himself, which after we had divorced, and that, I don't want to bring everyone down. It's so terrible because having a background in social work, I tried everything, being a networker. I call myself a networker because this is a sidebar. When Gladwell wrote The Tipping Point, he said there are mavens, salespeople, and connectors. And what I came to find after all my years in teaching networking in corporations especially, is you can be all 3. You can discern, and I'd rather have you, for example, refer one person who want to write a book that you discerned. And you said, look, out of all the 30 people who said, should I call Melissa? You were the one that you said you should, because you're the right kind of partner for her, because she's about making a difference. That's so much better than having all those other people. And that's where I love entrepreneurship today, you know, how you can have these wonderful experiences, and it can be the quality over the quantity. So at any rate, what I did is I thought, you know, I have this company, I grew it, but it's time to really now move forward. And I started writing books. And at that time, because of my husband's breakdowns, I had to work between being an entrepreneur and going back into the workplace. And I got into 401 North Michigan. I got into FERS, the accounting firm. And they have a training arm called, they still do, I think, Practice Development Institute. Well, FERS isn't around anymore, but PDI, last time I checked, they were. And there were 300 accountants. So I made them my guinea pigs. My very first book was a resource book for entrepreneurs that became one of the top 10 books in Chicago by Cranes. They reported it. The second one got me all involved with banks, accounting firms, and law firms.
Wow.
And especially banks. I started with American National, NBD, then they bought NBD, then First Chicago, then Bank One, then Chase bought Bank One. I was involved in everything up to Bank One, almost with Bank One. But it was, and I'm just very honest, there was a woman who actually said, we should do this inside. But I was able to bring groups of people together, like at KPMG, and people would say, how do you get us talking? And I did interactive networking events all the time, and I love doing them. And even I helped, it's even still up on YouTube, I helped Chicago reinvent, revitalize the community back in the year 2002. That's when LinkedIn started too.
Right.
And I got the Adler Planetarium here to do an event, and I got 350 people came, and there were two leaders at each table, and everybody networlded and shared, and it was incredible. And we got Tim Sanders, Chief Solutions Officer of Yahoo, Love is the Killer app. He came, the Love Cats. It was just so cool. And so I just kept doing those events. One time I brought 22 chambers together. It was amazing. Just so many fun things. And then I got on to the University of Chicago Women's Graduate Advisory Board. And that's where I met Jocelyn from Motorola. And we wrote Networlding. And that brought me into Motorola with a $500,000 contract, because they didn't have any marketing people.
Wow.
Well, I got to look at Procter & Gamble, Amazon, and I forget the other 3 companies, and give them a report about, here are the best practices for building marketing. The best form of marketing is networking. So to me, people who get networking are saints. I mean, there is nothing like it. It's so much more effective. It's about caring, sharing, connecting. So I'm a lover of that. But I got divorced in 2002, got married, remarried in 2009, ran the Dean Foods Women's Network, worked at Motorola with their women's group, met up with Larry Moll, who became the head of leadership for American Express, who brought me in there. And they had this thing, and you're going to love this, because you can use this, because I'm not a networking coach anymore. But they have, and Ken Chenault was there then too, under Band 45, he was Band 45, right underneath were all these leaders, and they bring in from outside 10 to 15 new ones a year. So when Larry was there, he brought me in, and their research showed that if people didn't network within 3 to 5 months, they left with an average a year, and that was worth $1 million loss per employee.
Whew.
And the same thing I discovered at Motorola, same thing. So the high potentials, if they felt disconnected, they weren't going to stay. And that's like, my husband's a recruiter. He's an executive recruiter. He has 7 people working for him. He says people don't leave their companies, they leave their bosses.
Wow.
And it's all about the people. It's all about that small group that you buzz around every day. And if they aren't lifting you up, they're bringing you down.
So my mind's about to explode with all the different directions I want to go. So I'm trying to rein in my, excitement.
Just one question.
Yeah, right. So I want to know what makes you tick, because a lot of writers that I've met, especially technical writers, very introverted, I have a very introverted side too.
And I do too. I'm in the middle. I'm right in the middle.
How and why did you become so good at networking? Where did a light bulb go off for you? Was it naturally your personality? Because obviously you've built this incredible career. I want to know how and why you channeled that networking ability.
I'm a big fan. I'm going to flip over on the writing side, because that's where I am now. But Stephen Pressfield, who wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, he was one of the people out of Seth's group that I loved working with. And he wrote The War of Art. He's got a wonderful new book out now. And he basically says, writing reveals you to yourself. And it truly, I've taken, take the long way home. And I realize I hate networking now. Truly, I don't drink, but when I went out twice to I went to a LinkedIn event in Chicago, but I had to drink a couple of wines just to stay there because I couldn't stand it. But my husband came, and my husband's an extrovert. So I just stand near him like glued, because I'm not running the show. If I'm running the show, I'm going to have everyone connecting. Northwestern business alumni, Loyola business alumni, 7 years with the University of Chicago, helping them network. But they're all introverts. So I got them. MIT Forum for years, teaching them. And the best advice I gave them, that these mostly, I don't even know if there was a woman in the room. The best advice that they resonated with them is that they didn't have to go alone to networking events. They could take a wingman or a wing woman. I thought that was hysterical.
Brilliant. Yeah.
They're very, very shy. And I would be the same way. But if you give me someone to help, like we have this amazing organization here called I See Stars. And I, at that time, Mayor Daley was there, and they had this contest for the kids to network. Well, they're kids. I love kids. So somebody said, oh, there's Melissa, go get her. And this one guy, young African-American guy, came up to me. Well, if I'm going to help someone, all bets are off. I'm not going to be shy, because I have to help them. That's what drives me. So I'm networking around the room with him. And of course he wins. And I don't want to say, of course, but if you have the experience and you build the skills, like all of what you have, you're going to get what you're looking for. Right?
Right.
So the cool thing was, and this is so serendipitous, so he wins, and they do this thing in Chicago where they have these amazing business leaders come and have tea with these kids who are from the inner cities, and pretty much from what I understand, they all get jobs at least at 38,000 and up. I came in just when this young man was sharing how he met me and how he went around, and he finished and he went, and then Melissa, and he turns around, and I'm right there at that intersection. When I walked in, it wasn't anything timed, right there with the book, because I told him I'd bring him a copy of the book. So that's what matters. That's what matters. Helping our kids, that's what matters.
So I think one of the reasons, just outside looking in, that you're so successful in networking, you genuinely care. And that seems to be a lost art.
I love helping other people. I love helping authors. I can't stand to see people suffer. And the saddest thing to me, if you said, what's the saddest thing in your business right now? Is I have said to people, it's almost like, I beg you, let me help you. I am not going to charge you to help you to get clearer. Should you write a book now? Should you write a book later? One person, Billy Dexter, my best networker in the world, because I got gifted by Regis right back at 401 a space that had 8 seats in it, and they did that in exchange for helping me help them network. And I had done that before at a shared office space. Well, they let me do an event because they had a big conference room. So I actually gave out these things that look like Oscars, and we have people from all over the world. One of Ivan Meisner's people. I'm not sure if he got one. I'm trying to remember his name. He's so cool. He's over in England. Do you know who I mean? He's such a great networker. He's over in London.
Okay.
Yeah, but they came from all over the world, and I gave out these, and Billy Dexter was there. And Billy has referred over 20 clients to me. So I call what I do a book creation process. And Billy came, I did authors workshops for years, teaching people outlining, because if you create a great outline, you'll create a great book.
Mm.
So 120 authors, 12 a year. It's been 10 years. I'm in year 11. It's amazing. Now I'm working with Heidrick & Struggles, where Billy is. He's a managing partner. With Billy, we blended our methodologies. I blended his making your network with networlding. And so he's now taken it and moved it forward and spread it all over the world. And that's the goal. Think about it. I can do so much more helping, 10, 12 other people a year than I could ever do on my own. And to me, that's smart. I like to call it smart philanthropy, because I love philanthropy. I love giving back. I'm at the give back stage. I love giving back, and I really mean it, because the world of publishing keeps changing. And I have a lot of wisdom. I'm happy to share. And I think the world of networking, which is the highest form of marketing, goes hand in hand. And my point is that if you look at two big bubbles right now in the world, one is content, and a book is still the highest form of content. Mm-hmm. And yet we have yet to see companies like Mercer was going to continue on with books, and they took one book I did with them to Davos. That's when the head of HR, Orlando, moved on and became the president of Holland Cruise Lines. Who goes from the head of HR to the president of Holland Cruise Lines?
That's crazy.
Who has a network, right?
Right.
You don't do it that way. And then there's Hewitt, the head of diversity. He ended up with $1 million contract, because even before he finished, he had all these white papers, and we turned that into a book. And then he ends up with $1 million more. So now he's over at Korn Ferry, and he's writing all these great books. He's Hispanic, and he's helping all kinds of Hispanic leaders grow. So, and Billy, same thing. Billy's book is just amazing. He's if you're going to put a person of color on a corporate board, all roads are going to lead to Billy. And so 18, 20 or so authors later, I'm still working with Billy, and now doing a book with Heidrick called Future Focused, and I'm most likely going to be the publisher. Now, that's what's really cool about it, because with my imprint, I don't sell my imprint, and I gift it. So I have taken on people as a traditional publisher. I've taken on a movie star who was in the movie Something Borrowed. Really cool. He's rehabbing homes here in Chicago, and he was the lead in it with not Jennifer Hudson, Kate Hudson.
Okay.
And everybody goes and looks that up now. And then you'll see Colin, and he's in Chicago, and he's wonderful, and his book Agile Artist is wonderful. So it's just so much fun to do that. And I am looking. So this is my ask. I'm looking for people whose major focus is making a difference, who have at least 1 million avid followers, because together I would take that person on as a traditional publisher, and we would split revenue. But most authors get 10 to 15% if they have that kind of support from a publisher, but a publisher doesn't really market them that well. I've worked with most of the major publishers. And it's up to the person. But if you already have a following, and then I have the synergy of the other authors, the rising tide lifts all ships. So we're going to definitely share your book. What I'm going to have people do is read 2 excerpts and then say why that impacted them, and then keep building that out so people spread your wisdom around the world, which is what I want more than anything, and then to help young people just rock the world.
I love this. This is amazing. So let me back up a little bit to you. I still am trying to get around this stratospheric rise that you've had. So were you very intentional and strategic about your networking as you built your career? You were. Okay. So it wasn't just serendipitous.
Right.
Okay, tell me about that.
And Billy and I talk about that. Billy, at Heidrich. And I tell him all the time, strategic and intentional, but in no way manipulative.
Right.
So my son, who's a writer too, amazing kid, Gavin, he says, Mom, you have high hopes and low expectations. So I come with, how can I help? And that's also there. So it's paradoxical because a lot of people think I'm going to be used. And it's the opposite of using. I'm intentional around somebody like Billy to partner with him. And he is with me because he understands how we are complementers to one another. And it's not all about me. It's not all about him. It's not even all about the two of us. It's about all of us. How can we serve? And that's where it all comes in. And so LinkedIn, let's go on over to LinkedIn. You can type in on LinkedIn, searching under people, all kinds of things like, the number one chosen value, because that's how networking starts. What are your top 4 values? So when I would go around and give talks, and I stopped between 10 to 15,000 of speech, and now it's all about the authors helping them do that. But it's so interesting because I would say, look, remember in the 80s, it was all about mission, and then we went to vision, and then we hit values, and we're still in values, and then we've got the value equation, right? And then we've got core values. And those seem to hold up because we can have values as individuals. And the question when I would do networking training is, how do they marry up with the values of the company? So, by the way, anyone looking for jobs, being on 6-figure jobs, and I did webinars for them for, at least 3 or 4 years. Well, you can find those values, and then that's a great way to know people and find those people in their profiles where they have those values. And then another trick that I don't want to call it trick, a technique, is look them up if you see people on Twitter. There was one woman who found a job in 30 minutes right after I gave them that idea. They went on Twitter and found it just in time. So Facebook is the barbecue, Twitter's the water cooler, right? LinkedIn's the boardroom. And I like to say Instagram, it's so hard. And then TikTok, I feel they're more like like browsing through an eclectic museum of some sort. And TikTok is one that, here's an eclectic museum, but it's timed. Like you got to pace yourself and, and go along with it. But that's the idea there. And then the other thing I like to do, my number one value, and we did all this research, number one value of high performing individuals, executives, all these CEOs is integrity. So, obviously we're not seeing that in our government, and we hope to see more of it, but try to say very diplomatic here. But it's solid in the business world. There is integrity. They want that. So go in LinkedIn under people, type in integrity, and I have 13,000 connections, and 99% connect to me. And so, I decided I would be an open networker, and I was one of the lions. I was one of the original 10. And even at LinkedIn, I told them, I said, you should get us 10 lions and let us be ambassadors. I don't know why they did that, and then they should have done that, but, God bless them. They just keep changing. But that's the thing. It's all about finding people like yourself who understand it's best to connect with people who have a similar and complementary values, who really get collaboration. And we say in networking, RWA, ready, willing, and able to network. And just so you know, if anyone buys, because the guidebooks are online still under networking, and Billy Dexter has guidebooks there too. Anyone who goes there, proceeds from that, we always give. That's what I just give everything to initiatives that help kids, especially in inner cities, get better starts.
I love this.
That's the thing, it's like, let's help them, but let's help each other. So LinkedIn is amazing. And through the years, I have interns. And by the way, I'm going to give a plug for this organization. It's called Dream Careers. And I've had free interns because their parents pay for it, but I teach them publishing.
Mm.
And that's another thing that's on the horizon, is working with the university. And I'm hoping to get like 50 kids and teach them publishing. And then they'll help all the authors.
I love it.
So,
So I want to ask you another question, because I want to go back to this topic too. You said something earlier that piqued my interest, because I found this to be true in my experience. You said content is this big bubble, and nothing is better than a book. And I have definitely found that. Anyone that goes through my book then comes to me is so qualified. It's such an easy sale. So what's your best advice? What's your system that you walk a client through when they say, hey, I'm going to hire you. I want to put a book together. What's do you have like a checklist or an outline or any advice you can give?
I have like a 10-step process.
Okay.
So I always throw in the marketing planning for free, because I know people, they'll focus on the book, but then they don't have all their launch figured out.
Right.
So I call it baking the marketing, and we start with the research. So I'm going to find a positioning for the book, and you always want to make sure, just like with LinkedIn, your profile has your keywords in it. So I've worked with Jeff Bezos. I understand the backside of Amazon. I've been doing it for 15, 18 years, whatever. And so the positioning is so important. The category selection is important. And then the subtitle, which is called the promise, is so important. So I work and work and work on that. And I spend hours every year, probably 1,000, 2,000 hours, looking at, especially in the business area, but I also do memoirs. I've worked with psychologists, financial planners, doctors. I look at how those books are doing, and I have at least 2 really wonderful tools that will show me what sales are and where you can be up in a category. And I see people even still not realizing you can be in 10 categories on LinkedIn. And you just have to tell them. You can write to them. So when people search, because Amazon is its own search engine,
yes,
they will search and find you. So there's so many things to do. So your cover is so important. And I am now working actually with the designer who did the American Girls experience, and we are rocking the world with covers.
Wow.
So we are, I'm really on that cover space. And then I have experts I work with, and then also develop off of for the book description. That's very important. Pricing is very important, because you don't want to price too high or too low, or psychological will hit you on both sides. I love Kindle Select, and I begged Amazon. I've got the second in command because I know how to get a hold of Jeff. And so I've gotten a second in command, but what I really want from him is let me handle the corporate side, because I also got the American Marketing Association to become a publisher, and brought up the first 2 books in a series called The 7 Problems of Marketing. So what I see is coming are companies that are going to do a series, because you can't copyright a title, but you can trademark a series. So I call myself a seriespreneur too. I look, no matter what, you can still say you're starting a series. And I've got some other secrets I'm not going to share, but they're really good. So
yes, love it.
Gotta keep something.
Something you gotta hold back.
Something. But and then I have a do-it-yourself program, which somebody's on having a hard way to go, I'll gift it to them. I mean, it's not about fill my coffers up. I want more and more just for the sake of it. I want to write great books, and I want to write great books with people, and people that I admire. And so, like I said, anyone who sees somebody who's that kind of person making a difference in the world, says, I'm ready, I will work with them. But I only have room for 12, so I'll do the best I can. And so after the keywords and the title and the research, then I look at the 1 and 2 star reviews. I also look at the 3 because they're in the middle, and I look at the 4 and 5, but I look at it bottom up. It gives you much better clarity, because it will tell you what people are missing. So an example is, I'm doing a diversity book right now, diversity inclusion, and the author was head of HR at Disney, and She's doing a book. She's between opportunities now. Great time to do it. And she liked the fact, because I always bring extra editors on. I have a unique process, and I'm in there using what's called the scribe methodology, where I'll interview per chapter. 90%, I think, of business books are about 10 chapters. And so I know to look at 8 to 10 signature stories of the author, and I help them really develop them because they can use them for talks too. And then I also have a global TED speaker. There are only 300 of them. I often have her come in and look at the copy. I have experts come in, and we'll scrub content probably twice as much to 3 times as much as a traditional publisher. And I had 7 publishers, 4 major publishers, like I said, Dearborn that became Kaplan, Josie Bassett's owned by Wiley, used to be owned by Simon & Schuster, McGraw-Hill, American Management Association, on and on, Career Press, Wiley too, Wiley's doing things. But the opportunity now is, if you, realistically, if they take what you have, learn what you have, and build off of that, that's a much better way. And then to go into, if I were you, a hybrid publishing model and look at it. But I'm about turning a dime into a dollar. The goal is invest wisely. The only thing I take exception with, and the only negative thing you'll hear me say, is I am concerned by people who don't want to invest, and they try to do the minimal, spend the minimal amount. I mean, I've spent $90,000 on a marketing campaign, so you don't have to, I say, but it's not that kind of money. You know, the goal is I've been there, I've done that, I've seen everything, and your book lasts for life plus 70 years. Why wouldn't you have somebody helping you? So I'm at the point now where we do 2 chapters a week. People like my questioning. I guess I'm a good interviewer, they say. So I interview, we extrapolate, and at least you don't have a blank page then. And then I have researchers researching, because why wouldn't you want the up-to-date knowledge, looking at it from both sides, looking at everything people could say that they didn't like about your book? Well, now you've got the opportunity to make sure your book covers every single argument they could have. And then so you're talking at least 4 to 6 or more edits, and then a final edit.
Wow.
So, and most publishers do about 2 edits and then a final.
Right. Yeah. I feel like this is an interview people are going to have to listen to multiple times, because you just gave a great tutorial on publishing. And as somebody, I mean, I've been self-publishing. I've published 8 books since the early 2000s. And there's a lot in there that even I'm listening to going, I wasn't in the Amazon classes I took. Like, that's really good stuff. And I think I want people to know that this is, you're really getting wisdom from the trenches here, which is so important. So before we run out of time, as we wrap up, I want people to know how can they work with you? How can they learn from you? What are the best places for them to go online to interact with you more, get your content, those types of things?
Well, I'm Melissa G. Wilson, and you're the first person to really emphasize the G, because there's a Melissa Wilson who's a newscaster. Networlding is the site, networlding.com. You can also type in Melissa G. Wilson. You can get me at melissa@networlding.com. You can also type in Melissa G. Wilson, LinkedIn, link with me. And for anyone that says they came through you, I am more than happy to share with you my course, which is $1,000 course now. I've not offered it for $500 yet. I've kind of split it up, but I want people to understand that they're cared for, that here's something different. And if you go through that course and you have questions, email me, and then you'll know more, like, yeah, Melissa could help me. There's a lot here. I could go do it myself. God bless you if you do, then at least you have some knowledge and you're not like, shooting from the hip. That's fine with me. And if you want to talk to me, it doesn't cost you anything. I love to hear your ideas and would be happy to go, okay, here's what I think. The heavy lifting with a DFY, a done for you, is really about, it's really not heavy lifting because you have me. So it's actually fun. Then it becomes really fun and you know everything and you're not blindsided. But if you want to do it yourself or you want to do part of it yourself, I'll have people come and say, just help me for 10 hours and I will do that. And if that's enough, that's enough. I'm happy to do whatever someone wants that will help them get to that next place in their career or business.
Wow, I can't believe you offered that. That's crazy. but I love the principle behind it, which is you're willing to demonstrate expertise and authority. You're not just going to sit there and claim it and live on your accolades. You're going to actually give people and have them pre-qualify themselves by going through your content. In this case, $1,000 course to say, you are the real deal. And they are going to see, at the end. And I love that model, Melissa, because people then self-select and they use content to qualify themselves and they get to know, like, and trust you along the way. So even if they don't end up hiring you for consulting or a done for you project, they're going to refer people. And I love that idea. And, the idea too, that you only have 12 clients a year, but yet you're this approachable and open. That just kind of proves to me you talk the talk and walk the walk with your networking, which is somebody could have an introduction or an idea that I haven't thought of. It's not going to hurt me to read their email and get that thought or that introduction. That's brilliant stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. I love your energy, and I appreciate that you like that. I said I didn't trust you at first, and it just shows you how we can all learn and grow. So I not only trust you now, I think you're awesome. So thank you.